Mozambique is one of Africa's and the world's least visited countries. Many Europeans, mainly Portuguese, have selected this country as their permanent residence because of its climate, scenery, and economic living conditions. Continue reading to discover about living in Mozambique and other fascinating facts. Welcome back to another exciting video. Today's video is about everything you need to know about this life in Mozambique. Traditions, people, dangers, threatened animals, things not to do. Before we start the video, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. The environmental conservation areas, where safaris can be taken, are one of the main tourist attractions in Mozambique. These protected areas, which include 6 national parks and 6 national reserves, cover more than 12% of the country. The Nyasa National Reserve is the country's largest protected area, where tourists can see lions, leopards, elephants, buffalo, zebras, wild dogs, and other animals. The giraffe population in Mozambique has dropped significantly as a result of years of civil strife, habitat destruction, and unrestricted use of natural resources. Reintroductions have occurred in recent years, and it is estimated that there are presently roughly 250 South African giraffes in the country. Poaching and civil violence drove rhinoceroses to extinction in Mozambique 40 years ago. However, in 2022, 20 white rhinos and 7 black rhinos were reintroduced to several national parks in South Africa. As you can see, Mozambicans are concerned about the preservation of their species. Poaching has been a concern in Mozambique for decades. Rhino horn prices range from $3,600 to $17,000, with China and Vietnam being the 2 primary markets where they are employed in traditional medicine. Dehorning or filing down rhino horns is a prophylactic measure used to stop poachers from murdering rhinos. However, the horns grow back after several years, and poachers appreciate the weight of the rhinos. Thus, they may still murder the rhinos even if the horns haven't totally grown back. If you are an animal advocate, there are numerous organizations online that offer volunteer programs to conserve rhinos and other species. If you have children and live in Mozambique, you may prefer private schools because public schools are overcrowded and under-resourced. The healthcare system is deficient, particularly in metropolitan areas. It's better in Maputo, but for severe conditions, it's best to have private medical insurance and seek care in South Africa. Most doctors speak both Portuguese and English, yet some medications can be challenging to obtain. Medical insurance is very crucial because if you are in an accident, you may have to pay for treatment upfront. Another crucial aspect to remember is to take malaria prevention medication and to protect oneself from mosquito bites at all times, as malaria is an endemic disease in the country. Mozambique boasts 30,000 kilometers of roads, but only 5,600 are paved, and the majority are in and around Maputo and other major cities. Outside of these places, a 4-wheel drive vehicle is required, because more than smaller vehicles are required. There are approximately 3,100 kilometers of railways that both locals and visitors use. Mozambique is one of the poorest countries on the African continent, and it is frequently hit by devastating droughts and cyclones that cause coastal flooding. The country is sparsely populated, with the majority of inhabitants living along the coast or in the lush Zambezi River Valley in the north. Water buffaloes, elephants, wild boars, leopards, baboons, giraffes, zebras, antelopes, lions, rhinos, hippos, and crocodiles are among the country's various wildlife populations. The Plasmodium falciparum mosquito, which transmits malaria, is the deadliest animal in Mozambique. However, there are deaths caused by other animals, particularly crocodiles. Each year, several dozen people are killed by these reptiles, with the majority of victims being children and women who go to rivers to bathe, bring water, or wash your clothing. Snakes throughout the country, pythons, deadly vipers, and cobras can be found. Flamingos, cranes, storks, herons, pelicans, ibises, and other water birds can also be seen, primarily in the northwest's wetter areas. Agriculture and fishing are the mainstays of the regional economy. More than 80% of Mozambicans are farmers. Shrimp, cotton, sugar, and citrus are among Mozambique's principal exports. The country is also one of Africa's top cashew nut growers. Mining is also essential in Mozambique, with gold and tantalum, a metal used in electronics, being the most critical resources. Only roughly 1/3 of Mozambicans live in cities, including the capital. Maputo, Beira, and Nampula are the major cities. The majority of the population lives in rural areas, where many people live in traditional huts. There are over 80 languages spoken in the country, including Swahili, which is spoken in the country's northwestern regions, and Shona, which is the predominant regional language along the border with Zimbabwe. The southern regions speak Zanga. All schools teach Portuguese as a foreign language. The country's vast coastline in the Mozambique Channel provides some of Africa's best natural harbors, allowing it to play an essential part in the Indian Ocean's maritime economy. Meanwhile, its white sandy beaches are a big draw for the region's burgeoning tourism economy. Fertile soils in the northern and central parts, on the other hand, have resulted in diverse and abundant agriculture, and the Zambezi River has provided adequate water for cultivation, while also serving as the foundation for a regionally significant hydroelectric power industry. Mozambique's convoluted recent history has stopped its people from taking advantage of natural resources and creating a stable economy. Following independence in 1975, Mozambique faced internal war as the Marxist government, backed by the Soviet Union, struggled for control of the country against anti-communist forces funded by South Africa and the former Rhodesia. Mozambique's civil war, which began in 1977, displaced 4 million people and killed 1 million more as a result of violence, famine, and illness. The conflict ended in 1992, but its ramifications continue to this day in some of the country's national parks. Almost all of the enormous mammals were slain. The region has been inhabited since the 4th century BC, with the earliest coastal villages founded in the 9th century. Swahili culture was dominant at the time. In 1498, Vasco da Gama arrived in Mozambique. Furthermore, port cities aided the Portuguese in establishing trading centers in the Indian Ocean. Mozambique gained independence from Portugal in 1975. Mozambique derives its name from an Arab trader named Musa al-Beed, who resided on an offshore island in the 15th century. Until 1898, the capital city was located on this island when it was relocated to Maputo, which is located on the continent. Enslaved people were an essential part of Mozambique's exploitation trade in the 18th century. From the Morave area around the tip of Lake Nyassa, traders established slave networks to Kilwa and Mozambique's island. Nyassa, the largest lake in the area, is shared by Mozambique, Malawi, and Tanzania. Lake Malawi is another name for it. Sightings of the Zimwi sea serpent have been reported in this lake. A newspaper published a story in 1905 about a party of missionaries who were attacked by a sea serpent while sailing on a boat. So far, Mozambique Island, an island city in Nampula Province, is the sole site on UNESCO's World Heritage List. The island is home to the first town as well as the São Sebastião Fortress. It was once the most important trading center along the Indian route. Due to its proximity to South Africa, Ponta de Ouro is a popular beach vacation location for many South Africans. The beaches are golden, and there are several resorts in the region. You can see loggerhead and leatherback turtle nesting sites near Ponta Mamoli. The Conga Rosa National Park is located near the southern end of Africa's Rift Valley. During the Civil War, this place was severely damaged, and the majority of the animals were poached. Only about 200 elephants survived, but rehabilitation efforts helped the herds recover. Park rangers are now tracking and protecting them. The discovery of enormous natural gas and oil deposits off the country's northern coast resulted in the formation of new industries. South Africa, India, the Netherlands, China, the United Arab Emirates, and Portugal are Mozambique's key trading partners. As a country that Portugal long dominated, the Portuguese language and Catholicism may still be found in various sections of the country. Cultural influences can still be found in Mozambican customs. However, many people are also part of indigenous cultures. Approximately 2.1 million Mozambicans are infected with HIV or AIDS, and the country ranks in the top 3 with the highest rates of this disease among their populations. Mozambique is the third most afflicted country after South Africa and India. Piri-piri is a fiery red chili pepper sauce or spice that is used in many Mozambican recipes. Piri is Swahili for pepper. Lemon, garlic, and onion are also included in the sauce. Matapa, also known as mukawani, is a traditional dish made of sauteed cassava leaves mixed with crushed almonds or cashews in a thick sauce and served with rice. Mozambique is home to a variety of rare or endangered animals and flora, as well as groups of black and white colobus monkeys and gelada baboons. The vast majority of Mozambicans speak the Bantu branch of the Niger-Congo linguistic group. The most widely spoken Bantu languages are Makwa, Lomwe, Zonga, Stina, Shona, and Chihuahua. As a result of significant population transfers in the 19th century, small populations in the far south and throughout the country shared Nguni languages with South African and Zimbabwean peoples. The most heavily inhabited rural areas have the best soils and climate, such as the Lurio and Liganja river basins, the coastal plain between them, and the lower Limpopo Valley. People in tiny communities frequently cultivate a variety of crops in unique and specific locations to reduce the risk of famine in the event of a flood, droughts, insect infestations, and other natural disasters. In 1962, Mozambicans from exiled political organizations united in Tanganyika, Tanzania, to form the Mozambique Liberation Front. Its first president was Eduardo Madeline. This front later sparked the War for Independence, which ended with the Lusaka Agreements with Portugal in 1975. The country has one of the highest newborn mortality rates in the world, while life expectancy is among the lowest, albeit it is comparable to other African countries. 2/5 of Mozambicans are under the age of 15, and 3/4 are under the age of 30. During the colonial era, Mozambicans worked as contract laborers and independent employees in surrounding nations, mainly in South Africa's mining areas and in the fields and cities of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. Forests around the Beira Railway and in the northern Zambezia province have been exploited as the country's principal supply of household fuel, firewood, and charcoal since independence. Concerns have been raised about the long-term ecological effects of eucalyptus plantations, as well as the fact that more wood is being taken down than is being replaced by reforestation projects. Mozambique's national currency is the medical, which is spelt as medicais in the plural. Since the 1990s, the country has privatized its banking industry and taken on debt to fund development and address foreign currency shortages. Although private planes were the first to fly regularly in Mozambique, Portugal's national airline began a route between Beira and Maputo following World War II. Eventually, the country built its airline during the colonial era. Mozambique Airlines took its place in 1980. A new constitution was enacted in November 1990, bringing considerable reforms to the government, including multi-party elections, universal suffrage, and secret voting. This agreement eliminated the death penalty, upheld press freedom, and the right of workers to strike. Family and community have long been central to Mozambican society. The government, on the other hand, was opposed to traditional customs such as polygamy and different initiation rites, as well as the regulos, leaders who had held positions of power since the colonial government. By the late 1990s, the government had abandoned its anti-polygamy and initiation rights campaign, understanding that these practices were difficult to legislate. Regulos and other local governments came to play an essential role in governance. Most Mozambicans' daily essential cuisine is cassava, which is cooked and mashed and served with a sauce called massa. Rice is also the foundation of many meals, and is frequently eaten with beans. The Indian influence can be seen in the various types of pilaf rice, whether the rice is cooked with chopped vegetables or meat, as well as the use of curry as a seasoning. Mozambique has produced some of Africa's most influential writers and artists, and since the early 20th century, writers and journalists have published Maputo, called O Africano, and later O Bredo Africano, which has provided a forum for African intellectuals and writers for decades, despite colonial censorship. Popular music in Mozambique incorporates Western and African elements. Maraventa is a popular kind of music that started in the 1950s and was first performed on homemade guitars made from oil or gasoline cans. Maraventa lyrics are frequently political. The style evolved during the colonial period as a non-threatening approach to criticize the government. This style's associated dance is done throughout the country. Cyclone Idai ravaged Mozambique in March 2019, which killed over 600 people and damaged most of the country. Beira, the worst affected city, was almost completely devastated. Mozambique is divided into 10 provinces and one provincial capital city. The provinces are then subdivided into 129 districts, which are further subdivided into administrative posts and finally into localities. And if you want to understand more about another country, I recommend watching this film about Iceland. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.